Okay, hello there. Shoi do, hello to you. Shoi do. Shoi do, shoi do. Shoi do, shoi do. Shoi, shoi, shbo, soi. Hello, Lojban soldier, shbosoi. You're shbosoi now. You didn't realize you were joining an army by learning this language, but that's part of the deal. Also, there are bankle. What are bankle? Bankle, sometimes very badly translated as dialect, means a specific variety of Lojban, a particular its language class, bankle. The what bankle means is not exactly speaking exactly in the way that would be not exactly the same as far as parsing unambiguously, which is a thing no other language is anywhere close to having any such idea or option. So you gotta put this all in perspective, alright? Every once in a while you gotta zoom out a little. So, what does it mean that Lojban has bankle now? How should you feel about it? How do you feel about it? Let me know how you feel about it. People feel confused. That makes sense because it's complicated. Alright. So let's discuss specifically what it means. Lojban is an unambiguous language. But what does that mean? What exactly does it mean that it's unambiguous? What kind of unambiguous is it? How should we feel about the various kinds of ambiguity that it has? I don't know if I can answer all of these questions. Okay. Two important kinds of lack of ambiguity that Lojban has. One of the kinds of lack of ambiguity is that the words just have one meaning. For instance, your verbs that you have in the Lojban, they got just the one meaning, whereas an English verb could have any number of meanings. English verbs are just hanging out, doing meaning whatever. Lojban verbs are like, this is my meaning. This is the one, the meaning that I mean it. So that's different, and that also combines with another quality that Lojban has, is that there is only one way for a sentence. The grammar of a sentence can only be resolved in one way, and those two kinds of lack of ambiguity. Those are two different kinds of lack of ambiguity, which combining those two kinds of lack of ambiguity together makes it so that you can definitely figure out what the meaning or the parse of a sentence into a meaning is. Just one or the other won't do. If you have suppose you just have meanings that aren't unambiguous, but you can still have a grammar that makes it not clear how the meanings relate to each other. But if you can have a grammar that makes it clear which verb is happening, but the verb can have many meanings, and then it's still you haven't clearly expressed what happened. So in order to make a sentence that just clearly expresses something happening, Shoi shizdahu, ilo shizdahu shukuntami. Imi damba jeshu jinga ikuhimi chag jeshu mrobiho jibni ichumikakne po diha ichumikakne po diha Conro. You see how mi fliba po Conro binko. Imim robiho. Imina nelshi po fliba. Izabna fa po snada. Imabla fa po fliba. It is awesome to succeed. It is terrible to fail. That's what I said. That's what I'm saying with these words. Want to hear some words? Wordsy. Words. Oh wait, those are English words. Alright. You'll be wanting to hear the Lojban words. Okay, here's the thing about the... Alright. We're going over the types of ambiguity that there are and whether they matter and stuff. I am not able to attain. So one thing to keep doing is to keep zooming out and keep remembering that we are worlds away from English, and the other things in the neighborhood of Lojban, the other things in this neighborhood are other log lengths. Like, there are lots of cool log lengths now. There used to be just Lojban, but now there's a zillion. There's a new one coming out that's just getting started called Sheshtan, and there's one that's been around for years now with people who are already fluent in it, and it has multiple versions. The Toang has a bunch of versions, but the difference in Toang having versions is that Toang has someone who's in charge, who's like, only use this one. So does that, which, I mean, but I'm not paying enough attention to know whether that in fact happens and causes people to only use that one. But anyway, that's one way you could make Lojban be only one set of rules, is to be like, you have to follow only the one set of rules. Just somebody take charge and start punishing anybody who does the wrong rules. That's not really a good solution. The thing about Lojban is that it's super cool, and I'm not sure how to explain. Okay, so the types of ambiguity. There's so many types of ambiguity. But the kinds that we do succeed in removing in Lojban are, we do remove both of those types of ambiguity are removed, even if there are bankle meaning different ways of speaking, different styles of speaking, which with different styles of speaking that amount to different grammatical rules, or different parses, that you parse the language differently. So there's the order of the words, and like make the sentences, and then but also and then you have to have particular meanings to the sentence. Alright, the word, you gotta have words that like have particular meanings, or else or else what? I don't know. Or else they'll get you. No. You have to have words you have to have words particular meanings, or else you can't be unambiguous, like, or you're like unambiguously something, which doesn't work. You gotta, to add up to unambiguous, you gotta be unambiguously something in particular, or no deal. Those are the rules. I insist. So, it's not really that I insist. That's like logically required or something, I think. I don't know. So I'm confused too. I'm trying to explain to you how confusing it is. How confusing is it? I don't know, really fucking confusing. So confusing. There's Boncla. What does that mean? It just means different, like, grammar rules. Is it inevitable? I don't know, but did it actually happen? Yes. Chequitao Zhao happened. That's something that happened. Often called Chequitao because the Zhao substitution isn't that popular. Zhao substituting for Zhouhu is the Zhao substitution. And you don't hear that much anymore. I complained about it before. I don't know if I made it not popular by complaining, but I was like, but what if you want to count a rhythm? Because Zhao means a number. Zhao is and the rest of the numbers are all one syllable. So if you take Zhao, which means 13, then if you're counting and you get 10 is Dao, and then wait, Fei, Dao, Fei, Guy, Dao, Fei, Guy, and then if you can't say Zhao, then you would have to, when you got to 13, then you wouldn't. Wow, Juz is a Ralphsy for talking about 13. What an idea! What an idea to assign a Ralphsy to the number 13 so that you can make 13. I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I complained and I was like, what if I want to count beats? Because it could, maybe it's good because I can use it to count beats. Leave alone Zhao. So I don't know if I also just saying Chequitao is shorter than saying Chequitao Zhao, and people are now sahuslakiskuteha, afraid of saying unnecessary syllables. So and there's these various kinds of ambiguity. Here I am, lost in the bamboo, trying to explain about all the kinds of ambiguity. There's probably a lot of them. Well, the thing is that there's ambiguity between which... So we've got unambiguous systems, right? We got these unambiguous... we got an unambiguous set of rules, and we got other set of rules that are also unambiguous. So no worries. Each one is totally unambiguous, and you'll just have to figure out which one. I mean, alright, so the thing is that is a form of ambiguity that you could also theoretically remove that sort of ambiguity also. So, as long as you're removing ambiguities, why would you also leave some of them? That just seems rude. It's like, I want to get rid of ambiguities, and you're leaving this ambiguity? But the reason why you do actually have to leave that ambiguity is that that one is being ambiguous about how people want to communicate, how they get to communicate. It's an ambiguity about like how people are deciding to communicate, which is like, alright, and you can't stop someone from making a Lojban ambiguous language either, but nobody does that. So I mean, maybe I could do that for clarity. We could make a Lojban super ambiguous language with multiple meanings to things that's actually confusing that way. That actually has ambiguity between the various and ambiguity between possible meanings of an expression. What we have in the situation in Lojban now, there is no ambiguity between possible meanings of expressions. What we have is various banclair, language. Language classes of language, banclair, which each banclair is totally is a set of rules for making unambiguous, sensible Lojbani. Every one of them is very Lojbani. Each banclair is a Lojbani banclair. Okay, I don't think that's what, when people are like, there's Bonkla, so it's ambiguous now, it's totally ambiguous, malrealismo, yee! But, the thing is about being scared, about it being malrealismo, to fucking multiple meanings-y. The thing about that is that within each Bonkla, each way that people are choosing to speak, this is a community of people who are exploring unambiguous ways of communicating, who are speaking in ways of in styles of Lojban, each of which is an unambiguous style of Lojban that they're exploring or just living in because it's a real language. So so each one is simple enough, and the whole, it's all so simple, really. There's no actual complexity going on at all. But the problem is that by the language developing enough that there is a potential ambiguity about whether there is an ambiguity about which language class you are speaking in, which unambiguous grammar you are speaking in. So you have to work real hard, and Bishakli has been having fun recently. If you work real hard and think about it, you can figure out something that would make it an ambiguity. You can figure out an ambiguity between the two, that a sentence that seems like it could mean something in two different Bonkla simultaneously, thus creating for amusement the supposed ambiguity, which is ambiguity about which Bonkla, which grammar, each of them unambiguous, but which one a particular utterance is in. There's an ambiguity there. That's real, that there's ambiguity there, but it's not the main one, the normal ones from like language and stuff. Normally languages are so ambiguous all over the place. Each symbol you don't know where the boundaries are. You find the boundaries of where the symbols are. We have what's called a self-segregating morphology, which means that you find where the boundaries are by following a simple set of rules. Normal languages don't have nothing like that. You figure out where the boundaries are between words by hearing what goes together, thinking about the semantics, and parsing it, and then thinking more about the semantics, and thinking more about the culture, and it sort of vaguely adds up together. None of the Bonkla have anything vaguely like that. They all use the same self-segregating morphology, except for I'm using the sound ow, right? But that doesn't, ow parses the same as like ow, and so it's like another thing that's shaped like ow that you can, that's it. That only adds, it doesn't invalidate anything old for there to be ow. So like technically that's a different self-segregating morphology, because the old one doesn't have ow. So technically this Bonkla has a different self-segregating morphology, one where you have to know about ow. And that's it. That's the difference. I've just listed. There was a list of the differences. The differences are that there is a. This is obscure, But there is a difference in there's a bon clair in which you're allowed to you're allowed to have different shapes of words that would go together, and that aren't allowed because they would go together, but you are allowed. And there's if you pause first before the words, then you can say some. It doesn't matter. There's very little, and that's not like much used. I don't. That's like Schwalske. We use that for Schwalske, Lojbanic science, just playing around with Lojban and exploring Lojban and learning about Lojban. But that's not. I don't even know if anybody. I don't speak with any interesting morphology at all except "ew." So it's shockingly boring, really. Once you learn all this, you're like, oh, Lojban is probably so complicated and mysterious and magical. And then you're like, oh my gosh, there's complexities that are making it ambiguous. And then once you learn enough the Lojban, you'll be like, oh wait, okay, this is very simple, actually. It's so simple, really. Lojban is shockingly simple, and nothing interesting has ever happened. There haven't been dialects. Translating the word Bankle as dialect is ridiculous. There are not dialects. There is not various interesting different ways of speaking that you can't understand each other. There's that I say "ew" sometimes, and you don't have to say "ew" unless you want to say the words I say that have "ew" in them, which is like 5 words or something. That's it. And then okay, but so technically we've created another so this is not adding ambiguity on either of those 2 levels of ambiguity that I was talking about. I was talking about there's the level of the ambiguity of what a word means. I mean, I've talked about 3 different levels of ambiguity, and it doesn't create ambiguity on any of those levels. There's the ambiguity of what does a word mean. There's the ambiguity of which word is it we're talking about, which is like the self-segregating morphology lets us know which word, and then we've got an unambiguous grammar that allows us to know the structures of the sentences, and we've got unambiguous meanings of the words, which we endeavor to have unambiguous meanings of the words. Here's an example of something that I was thinking earlier about. This is a song I wrote. Ihu mishusku lulihu. Ihu minoda shusku. Ihu minoda tisku. Ihu mishusku lulihu. Lu, open quote, lihu, close quote. So, shusku lu lihu, say, open quote, close quote, say the empty string. So I said, do I say the empty string? And then I say, ichu mi no dashusku. So no dashusku means to say nothing. So do I say the empty string? Do I say, or do I say nothing? And then I also, and the meaning of one of the words in my song has changed since I made the song. When I made the song, I said, which at the time meant, is there nothing that I want to say? Because at the time, skuji and jisku were synonyms, which was kind of fun and clearly kind of pointless, and somebody eventually decided that it would be better, they thought, somebody decided to use jisku to mean expressing your desires. Skuji means, so skuji, both of them most used to mean what skuji means, which is to want to say something. to, like, so you're like, oh wait, what I meant to say was miskuji. I desired to say miskuji, mean to say. But and they both meant that before, but now jisku means to say what you desire. Jisku. So that's, I mean, that's more useful. It's not like we had said jisku so much, the old meaning, that whatever. The old meaning of jisku is very, but this is that form of ambiguity. See, X1 says that they desire X2, whereas it used to be, once upon a time, it was the same as skuji. X1 means to say X2. But no longer. It has changed. And so there is technically that form of ambiguity between very old texts that are very obscure, mostly old IRC messages. But if you go to the old IRC messages, then you will have to know where in the history of the meaning of skuji, where exactly, and I don't know when exactly it changed. And so there is, and that's an example. There is an example of that form of ambiguity, of what the word means. But I mean, it's not only between historical periods, because we have reached consensus that jisku means to express something, express desiring something. So now that's what jisku means, and there's no, like, in today's way of speaking, there's no ambiguity. What does jisku mean? I think we agreed on that. I don't know. You never know, because there's no formal boundary of who counts as a Lojbanist and what counts as there's no formal process of when they're disagreeing about whether we agreed that you can say that, right? So who knows? But it seems to me like it seems to be the case. Seemingly, apparently, there's a situation where we seem to have agreed on the new meaning of jisku, and that's what's in that dictionary that people have been using. So that's probably what that means now. But that's so, and then you might even be able to find a case of a word that people have not actually reached consensus on what it currently means. You might. But generally what will happen is, like, we noticed that there was a lack of consensus about the meaning of banzu. Once upon a time, we found that we were out of consensus about banzu, and I wasn't there at the time, but I just got back to Lojban, and I was like, wait, why is everyone saying bazooka? We're talking about bazookas, because banzuka means X1 has the quality X2 enough that it allows X3 to happen, as opposed to banzu nu, which means that X1 happens is a sufficient condition for X2 to happen. And I don't know, banzu, I guess, means X1 is enough for purpose X2 under conditions X3. It means neither of those. It has a random under conditions place. Anyway, banzuni. Banzuni means X1 is a property satisfied by a number high enough for X2 to happen. I don't know. I can't give an example of how to use that. I don't understand that. Ask someone else. But anyway, we noticed that there was that form of ambiguity, or they did. I wasn't there. I came back to the IRC. I'd been away for a couple weeks or something, and I was like, hey, what's up? And everyone was talking about bazookas. Except they weren't really talking about bazookas. It turns out that what they had found an ambiguity and cared. Because we're Lojban. We care if there's ambiguity. So they found an ambiguity between what people meant by that word, and they found a clever, helpful, productive way of resolving it. I thought that was very nice. And that's an example of Lojbanists doing it. We do Lojban. Really do it. And also, So there is disagreement of now about some of the short words because they assigned stuff like tau means a capital letter, which they were thinking of English. In English, lots of stuff has capital letters, just one capital letter. Lojban does not, even when the very rare circumstance where Lojban has capital letters, it capitalizes a whole syllable. Lojban does not generally do a thing where you capitalize a letter. That's not even a Lojban thing. It's totally an English thing. And they signed a basic, simple sound like pow to it, alright? And we're trying to speak Lojban, alright? We're not, like, some people are like, well, it doesn't matter if it's efficient because whatever, you know, this is just a play language and I don't care, basically, is what they say. But that is not my attitude because I use Lojban for talking and stuff. And so I need it to work good for the talking. Right? Like the same as English is not, if you're like, it doesn't matter if English is efficient because this is the nature of English and blah blah blah. Well, I use English for talking. I'm gonna have to, if something is gonna help me talk, I'm gonna have to talk in a way that is easy for me. I just have to, okay? Because that's how talking works. Talking is hard. Talking is hard enough without anything at all making it harder. So there's these various forms of ambiguity, and the one form of ambiguity that we're talking about that people are mad about with the Bondclaw is not the ambiguity in the meanings of the words. We always sort out the meanings of the ambiguities and the meanings of the words. Ambiguities and the meanings of words are totally get sorted out, and the ambiguities in grammar, if there's ever an ambiguity in how the grammar would resolve, that is also the sort of thing that we would be like, oh no, an ambiguity, and we would resolve it somehow. Okay, so all of that's worked out. The ambiguity that we're talking about, that people are complaining about, and they're like, no, Lojban doesn't have ambiguity. No ambiguity, no! What we're talking about is the ambiguity, what particular Bondclaw, what particular set of rules of Lojban, particular way of speaking, is this particular text in? How does this person talk, or how are they talking right now? So I'm not saying that that's not, like, in theory, a non-desirable form of ambiguity. I getcha. Ideally, you would not want to have that form of ambiguity, or any form of ambiguity. You would want everything to always be perfectly clear. That would be awesome. Everything being perfectly clear sounds like a good plan. I'm down. Here's the problem, is that people did think of Chucky Daojao before, and it's totally been a thing for a while now. So, like, what? Like, if you were serious about not having that form of ambiguity and you wanted to be like, okay, well, we gotta all reach consensus on a single Bondclaw so that we don't have this ambiguity, even assuming you want to do that, the Bondclaw you want to reach consensus on is like, not like the original one is called Loglan, right? The original Bondclaw is Loglan by JCV, but you want to settle on a Bondclaw from like the middle of history, from like the 90s. I mean, I should be like, yay, because that's when I first started loading Lojban, except no. There's nothing like especially good about that Bondclaw. It's just not, there's nothing There's nothing about it. Chasastagi. Chasastagi. Melby. Minapuchuno. I didn't know before. Minapuchuno. I didn't know before. Iminich Pojunilo Drata. I need to attend to something else. Ichudoshadruno. Do you now know? Ichudoshajimpe. Do you now understand? Do you get it? About all the different ways that Lojban is and isn't ambiguous? Alright, well, I'll explain it more later.